All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So, what I would like to do today, in an exercise with your summer reading, I would like to expand upon your conception of theme. That look, I'm sorry. Um, so you probably have a singular understanding of what theme is. Can someone tell me what theme is? It's a pretty basic concept in literature, right? An overarching message of text, right? Pretty basic definition. What I would like to do today is expand your understanding of theme. So obviously, as you know, theme is a literary element. As you just said, the theme of any given work is a universal idea or message explored throughout a work of literature. You've known this for years at this point. You probably don't need to even write that down because you know it. However, one thing that I imagine that you don't know is that theme can be divided into two different categories: thematic concepts and thematic statements. Have you heard of this before? No. Good. Then I have something to teach you today. Thematic concepts and thematic statements. You are most likely familiar with thematic concepts. This is probably how you're used to dealing with theme. But that the definition of theme in literature goes beyond that simple concept of thematic concepts. And I'm going to show you how in just a second. So if I was to ask you what 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 a theme of anthem is, what might you say? One theme of anthem, one universal message. Yeah. Okay, that's good. See, you're already there. So we might say ego is a theme of anthem, right? So I think you already kind of grasped this already without me even going into it. Um, so thematic concepts are simply the broader subject or topic that a given work touches upon. These are just your very broad general concepts that a theme, or sorry, that a work touches upon. So for example, love, free will, loneliness, violence, isolation. These are usually like one or two word general broad subjects that are dealt with in any given work. And I'm going to use your example here in just a second. So, have you guys read The Outsiders before? That's a pretty standard ninth grade text. You have? Okay. Well, I include Outsiders as an example because I feel like most ninth graders read that, maybe not in your case. So in the Outsiders, if even if you haven't read it, one thematic concept, one of those simple 1 2 word concepts is socioeconomic status, or we could simplify that to rich versus poor. You guys didn't get a chance to read Romeo and Juliet last year, did you? No. I was going to say like a very simple thematic concept in Romeo and Juliet would be like love or familial conflict, things like that. Very simple, broad subjects. Taking this a little bit of a step further, we get into thematic statements here. Thematic statements are what the work says about the thematic concept. We really want to deal with thematic statements, although the two concepts are inseparable. But thematic statements are kind of taking that simple general idea of theme and taking it a little bit further. So again, remember that common thematic concepts are love, isolation, free will, loneliness, death, etc., etc. These very simple, broad subjects. So, if with thematic statements, we want to consider the thematic concept of a work, and our thematic statement should say concisely what that work says about the thematic concept. Okay, so if we take our thematic concept for the outsiders. Socioeconomic status. Very simple, broad concept. If we're writing a thematic statement about that thematic concept for the outsiders, we might say something like this. The Outsiders reveals that despite socioeconomic differences and conflict, human nature is a constant. That's one thematic statement for The Outsiders, even though you haven't read it. You don't have that kind of context. Um, but I hope you can see here that the concept is simple, one word, socioeconomic status. Our thematic statement or what the work is what the work says about that thematic concept. Does that make sense? So, um, you said that a thematic concept for Anthem might be ego. Your thematic statement for Anthem using the thematic concept of ego might be what? You said it originally. Ego is necessary for society to progress. Absolutely. That's a perfect example of taking a thematic concept, turning it into a thematic statement. That's all there is to it. Thematic concepts kind of brush the surface of the author's intended meaning, and then thematic statements really flesh that out into a very specific claim. That gives us a good starting point to write more in depth. I'm gonna give you one more example here. Here's a handful of thematic concepts for Anthem. There are more, but here's just a few: collectivism, individualism, or ego, love, martyrdom, right? We choose one of these very simple thematic concepts, turn it into a thematic statement, just like we did with the thematic concept of ego. And we might have something that looks like this. I'll give you a second. Okay. So let's take the theme of collectivism. That's probably the main theme of Anthem. A thematic statement. Whoops, I messed that up. A thematic statement for Anthem might look something like this. In Anthem, Rand shows that when absolute agreement by the collective is necessary for change, progress is all but impossible. Kind of similar to what we said about ego or individualism. Ego or individualism is necessary for progress. Conversely, collectivism, according to Rand, halts progress. Again, that is her theory. You can agree or disagree with that as you will. You have your own opinions. So again, the thematic concept is collectivism, very simple, broad subject. The thematic statement addresses what the text or what the author is trying to say about that thematic concept. Does that make sense? Good. It seems like you pretty much had a grasp on that already, maybe without knowing the terminology. So I have a very, very simple exercise for you to practice using thematic concepts and statements. Again, you might be familiar with this already, but did not know the terminology. So all you are going to do today is come up with 2 to 3 thematic concepts for each of these novels and write one thematic statement for each one. Um, you need to list 2 to 3 thematic concepts and only choose one of those concepts for each one. Write one thematic statement. So you'll have a total of 2 to 3 thematic concepts for each of these novels, but just one thematic statement for each novel. Does that make sense? All right. Awesome. This is in classroom. It's just worth 5 points, but I thought it would be a good introductory exercise to make sure we have one of the more basic elements of literature down before we continue on with our year. So that is the assignment for today. It should only take you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. If you need me to look that over, will be glad to do so. If not, you can turn it in, and I'll give you feedback to make sure you have a handle on the concept moving forward. All right.